Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amy and this is a channel about crafting, mostly cross stitch, but crafting nonetheless. This is a stitch with me, so kind of want to bring you along, rage stitching this project. So I was hoping that I'd be able to finish it a lot faster, but I still finished it this same day. So I'm actually breaking this video into two parts. So I have this first part that's about 30 minutes, and then I did a second part that's another 30 minutes that I'm going to do, and it's completely different stitching, same project, but that one I'm going to save that footage for my Patreon. So if you're interested in seeing where I left off right here, that video picks up immediately after this one ends, and it will be on my Patreon channel with a different voiceover and a completely different story. So if you're interested in that, the videos that you're going to find on my Patreon are going to be more personal in nature, things like that you're not going to hear on this channel. So things that I keep a little bit more private, and things that I don't want accessible to certain people, in other words. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. This chart is the Pumpkin Carriage chart by Forest Embroidery, and I'm almost done. So the angle's a little weird, I know. I haven't quite what's the word, like figured out a way to make the angle right on Stitch With Me's. I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is. I haven't quite nailed the like overhead stitching part where you're looking like directly over. I don't know what it is. I just have a really hard time settling into that, mainly because I bump it with my head all the time. And you know, sometimes my threads are a little bit longer, and when I'm pulling my thread up, I hit it. And so I haven't figured that out yet. And I have a tripod, but I think I need a heavier tripod because mine's a little bit wobbly. And it's funny because the one that I have, I still paid a good amount of, I mean, obviously it wasn't like hundreds of dollars, but I feel like I paid a decent amount of money for it at the time. And it still doesn't do the job. It's okay when it's shorter, like maybe 2 feet, but once it starts getting higher, once you start using some of the thinner legs at the bottom, it's a lot more wobbly. And so I think I just need to invest in a sturdier one. Anyway, yeah, so I did finish this project. This video will go up, I think, before my Flosstube, so you'll be able to see. Well, no, I don't finish the whole entire thing because I didn't finish it until hours and hours later. I wasn't stitching that whole time. I just I stopped for a few hours, you know, like we had to make dinner, and then my girls and I go for walks every day and stuff like that. And so yeah, it wasn't finished in this exact sitting, but you know, it is what it is. I still finished it. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, but my goal is to finish 12 projects this year. This one is number 3, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm including, I don't know why I picked the number 12. I just did. It wasn't really like that I want to do one a month. It just seemed like a good number, and I have enough small projects to do that and kind of make that happen. And so that's kind of my thing is I don't intend on like getting any of my like Heaven and Earths done or any of my other full coverages like my Tilt and Crafts or some of the other ones that I've gotten. However, did I mention that I want it to be across all projects, right? So I'm going to loop back to the finishes, but I'm going to do, it's going to be between, so sewing doesn't count unless it's a blanket. But like, cause I plan on making some project bags, those aren't going to count, but between cross stitch, diamond painting, and crocheting, I want to finish 12 projects because I have one crochet blanket that's almost done. I probably need, I don't know, maybe 50 rows. I honestly don't know. I'm taking a wild guess, plus the border. And then I need to sew a backing onto it. So that's a whole different thing. But I plan on finishing at least that one and putting a good dent in another crochet blanket that I have, and then all of my cross stitch projects. And so back to what I was saying about the number 12, it's not necessarily that I want one done a month. It just seemed like a nice solid number, given that when I decided that, I was about to finish my second piece when I came up with that, which was the Linen and Threads Friends and Family sampler. That was the second finish that I had this year, and I don't plan on FFOing these, only because I'm going to be probably moving over the summer, and so I don't intend on fully finishing anything at this time. I would rather move cross stitch, like all my stuff that I can fold up in a box, instead of having all these frames and stuff like that, just because I know I'm moving. So I'm not in a huge hurry to kind of like FFO stuff. So what was I saying? I don't know, 12 just seemed like a good number to do, since I was on my second one, and I knew that I was at least gonna get 3 within that immediate like week, because I finished my temperature tree earlier in the year. I don't exactly know what day I finished that. And then I had a weird email. I had a lot of spam emails in my student email, which is really weird. Anyway, so yeah, my temperature tree, I finished that. And then after I finished my temperature tree, I knew without a doubt that I was going to pretty much monogamous stitch the Friends and Family sampler until it was done, because I was so close to finishing it. And it's funny because the Friends and Family sampler is like the only project I worked on last year, pretty much the bulk of the year, between March and July. That was the project that I worked on. And then between July and like November-ish, I didn't hardly stitch at all. I would do a few stitches here and there, and I just didn't do a whole lot of stuff. And then December, I don't think I stitched much in December either, I think. And then in January is when I kind of started really trying to focus on things, started really feeling overwhelmed by my stash and how much that I had. And so I've been spending a lot of time organizing my stash, sorting through it, getting rid of things. If you guys have been following my videos at all, you know, I destashed a lot of stuff. I still have about a third of it left, which in my next Flosstube, I'm going to briefly run through the stuff that I have left so that you guys can see if you want anything. All of it's listed on the Mystical Diamond Art website under the cross stitch tab. You'll see the destash page. There's still, I don't want to say quite a bit, but there's still a few things there that I think people are going to like. They just haven't taken the time to look through it yet. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to run through that in my next Flosstube. I need to drink coffee. Hold on. And so I can't remember when I posted. I recorded a Flosstube back in September, and I never posted it. I can't remember right now. I can't remember when I posted it, if it was January or February when I posted it, but I posted it. And since then, I've kind of been steadily making content. Every 2 weeks or so, I end up getting a few hours where I can really record a bunch of content and really crank everything out and get like 4 or 5 videos done all at once. And so I'm saving those over the next couple of weeks, and the only videos I'm left normally having to do is my Flosstubes in between that. At least that's how it's been for like the past 2 months, and it's working out really well for me, because then I don't have to stress out so much about taking the time to record, which is difficult with, I'm a single parent, I have 3 kids, and I'm their full-time caregiver. They don't really spend any time with anybody else for the most part. They're with me like 95% of the time. And so, you know, that being the case, it's kind of hard to do a sit down video, and even voiceovers. I find myself sometimes, like when I go to the grocery, my eldest is 16, and then I have a 10 and an 8-year-old. So when he's not 16 yet, he'll be 16 in May, but When I go to the grocery store, they stay here for the most part because I kind of, you know, since COVID, I kind of don't like taking them to the store as much. And they stay here with him for the most part. And I find myself recording voiceovers when I'm out. Only because I have like the silence to be able to do it. Like right now, my son's in his room. My youngest one hasn't woken up yet, and my middle one is taking a shower. So I took advantage of that to figure, I don't know if I'll be able to pull off all 30 minutes right now, but it's, I figured I could get at least half of this voiceover done, which I'm already at 11 minutes. So there's a possibility, you know, that I'll be able to pull it off. But anyway, nonetheless, oh no, I'm stitching right now too. I'm working on, you guys are watching me work on pumpkin carriage, and right now I'm working on a Halloween sampler from Cottage Garden Samplings. I absolutely love Cottage Garden Samplings, a lot of their stuff. However, I am just moving away from small projects. So this, I think the only other smaller, and not that this is that small, it's still a good sized project, but stuff with a lot of, what is it called? Negative space. I'm kind of moving away from, because I really want to do a full coverage. I find myself really missing full coverage, which is funny because I've never finished a full coverage piece. I have a bunch on the go, but I just genuinely enjoy the stitching of full coverage. This one that I'm working on is 160 by 157, so it's not the smallest piece. I'm doing mine on 32. Is this 32 count? What is this? Let me see what I'm doing it on. Yeah, I'm doing mine on 32 count, which means that it's going to be 10 by 9 inches, which isn't bad. If I would have did it on 28, it would have been 11 by 11, which still isn't bad. I should have done it on 28, but it is what it is. I'm also finding that I'm kind of in a place where I can only stitch during the day. It's not that I can, just something about it. I'm not the fluorescent light, not even fluorescent light, but false lighting for some reason is not agreeing with my eyes. And I'm finding myself stitching more in the daytime, and then at nighttime I'm doing nothing, which kind of sucks because like all I want to do is stitch. I pretty much stitch in all of my free time. I'm stitching, and it's kind of upsetting that I'm having a hard time with the lighting. And I have a lamp right next to my stitching area that I've been using, and I put daylight bulbs in it, and they're giving me a headache, like a massive headache every time I have to stitch at night. And so it kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's like, what can I do? Like I don't have to stitch, but I mean, like, it's either don't stitch at night or deal with the lighting. So I'm trying to figure out like what I can do to kind of offset that, because I don't like having the bigger overhead lights on. That's probably my best bet, but for some reason, like, I have daylight bulbs in my living room fan, and it gives off very, very nice light, but I don't like the lights on. I don't know what it is. So it's like, how do I stitch at night, you know? And I never had this problem before, but I don't know. Maybe it's just this house, like the way that the lighting is, because in my old office, like, I could stitch in the lighting that I had over there just fine, and it wasn't even like daylight lights. Maybe my eyes are just getting older from all the stitching. I don't know. I haven't even been stitching that long, and during the day I don't struggle at all. I don't struggle during the day. I've tried doing I got a light, put is that what, LED light, whatever, put it in, and put it like directly next to the stitching, so it's shining down on the stitching but not necessarily in my face, and it still gave me a headache, which is why, like, I'm hesitant to try something more expensive like an light, or even a headlight, or what are they called, a headlamp, I don't find myself drawn to those because of that, and I don't want it to give me a headache. If I'm already having issues with headache, I don't think that's going to help me either. So I don't know, because I don't always have time to stitch during the day. Like right now I've been lucky because we were on spring break, and so I feel like I've been able to get the extra daytime stitching in. But I go back to work tomorrow, and I still might be able to pull off some daytime stitching, because towards the end of the year and the summer are very, very, very slow for me with my work, because I work directly with the school system and or the public education system, and with that, the end of the year is kind of like blah, because they are wrapping things up, and it is what it is. And so I might be able to get away with it for the next few months still. I don't know, we'll see. I don't think I've mentioned this. I know I've mentioned that I'm planning on moving, but I haven't said anything about when and where. I do want to move in the summer, mostly because I want to be closer to my mom in Arizona, and like there's times where I see her, like we'll go down every weekend, and then there's times where I won't see her for like a month or two, and it's fine, like we make up for it. So it kind of averages out that I see her like every other weekend, which is fine. But I think I'm short a stitch right here, but that's, what, it's not gonna mess anything up. That's fine. But with the way gas prices have gone up, I am like, ugh, with gas prices right now. Like I just can't even, it's just ridiculous with how much gas prices cost. I'm spending so much money on gas, and that's part of the reason why I want to move closer, because it costs me about $100 to fill up my tank right now. And so I spend that when I go visit my mom. It takes me about a full tank to go over there, and toot around town. We usually go into town once or twice. She lives about 7 or 8 miles outside of city limits. And so, we usually go in my car, and then to come back. And then I have to fill up for the week again, and on the months where I go twice, that's like $200 a month in gas, which is quite a bit of money. And I don't anticipate that slowing down as far as going to see my mom. And so it's like, how do I work around this where, I'm not spending all this money on gas? And so I kind of want to move closer. But the issue that I'm having is like, my work contract was, the fiscal year is June. That's when it ends, and it starts in July. And so I haven't been given notification on whether, whoops, I just tipped you guys over right here, so sorry about that. I'm not going to edit this out. The fiscal year ends in June, and I haven't been given any type of indication whether or not they are going to renew my contract at work. And so that's kind of scary, because it's like, well, if they don't renew my contract, then what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to afford to live here in the first place? And even if I moved, it's like, if I don't renew my contract, or if they don't renew my contract, like, I don't have anywhere to go. I won't be able to, like, I want to move to Arizona, and I have family that I could stay with, but I'm 33 years old. By that time that happens, I'll be 34. I like living alone, so last year I did, when I was kind of in transition of moving from my family home to this home that I have now, I went and lived with my dad for, let me see, March, about 4 months, and it was okay. And honestly, I love my dad, I love his wife, he lives in my hometown, but I, parents have roles and things like that, and it was very difficult to live there, in my honest opinion, because I'm an adult and I want to do things. And it was kind of like, well, do you mind if I do this? Or do you mind if I do that? And not necessarily like that, but it's like, how do I, not necessarily, I don't want to say like ask for permission, but it kind of felt like that sometimes, especially like with my kids, because like when the kids were gone, I was like left there alone to do nothing, because at that time my kids were spending time with other people. It happens sometimes, and I'd be there alone. And parents have their own rules, and sounds so silly to be talking about at my age, but I didn't have a choice. I was staying with family, they were helping me out. It gets to a point where they're like, well, if you're going to be staying here, like, we'd appreciate it if you don't go out at night, don't be coming home. I don't go out at night anyway. I don't do any of that. I don't party. I don't go to the bar. I don't do things like that. But since then I've started dating somebody, and if I have to go move back in with family, it's like, that I don't want to say that that's not allowed, but it's like a weird thing. Like, you're so used to being an adult and being on your own, so it's kind of like a weird situation. Not only that, what I choose to do in my free time are things that I like to do. And it was hard when I lived with my dad because he doesn't see it the same way. He's very much an outdoorsy type of person, and he wants to spend all day gardening and making his house look nice. And he remodels houses as well. So he always has something with a lot of physical labor to do. And when I was staying there for that period of time, it was hard because he expected me to do all of those same things. And I did them with him because I was grateful to be there. But it's something that, being that I'm an adult and I never really had to live with my parents, I moved out when I was 17, and I've lived with a partner ever since. With a short period of time in between when I did live alone, I always had my own place. So I've grown very used to being in my own space, and losing that, it's very difficult to be so independent in that way, and then have to, change the way you do things every day, because I don't even know like how to explain it. And I hope this doesn't sound like I'm ungrateful at all in any way, because it's not what it is. It's just, it's very different. And so I hope that I'm not in a position again where I have to live with family like that again, because it's just not for me, and I have very strong-willed family members, um, you know, and we don't necessarily agree completely on raising my kids. And, when you're living with somebody else, that's something to also take into consideration is, parenting views, and they want you to do things differently, or you might want them to do things differently. And that's something that's very difficult to navigate. And so there's a lot of things to consider. Not only that, but I just have a lot of stuff, having to put stuff in storage again. It's very difficult, but it's also something that you just have to consider the possibility when you're in my position. And I hate to say it that way. I don't know. It's just, it's a difficult thing is all I have to say. You know what I mean? I'd have to put, it basically have to put everything on hold. And I mentioned my dad remodels houses, and they did offer me a house, there. Not for free, obviously. I was gonna have to pay for it, but um, he has a lot of properties, and the problem that town, it's my hometown where they live. I absolutely hate it. I don't purposely want to choose to live there. I refuse. I don't want to. So it would have been something to consider, and I would have been able to save myself a lot of money if I would have sucked it up and just stayed there. But I didn't want to have to move my kids' schools and everything, and I knew that I wasn't going to be happy living there forever, and I was going to want to move again at some point. So then, like, I'd have to switch my kids' schools a second time, and that's something that I wasn't interested in doing. Not only that, but um, my kids are used to a completely different lifestyle, and then having to cram them into like a 2-bedroom house with 4 people, it's difficult. And I was able to put myself into this townhouse that I'm staying now, and I've absolutely loved it. Living on my own anyway. I absolutely love living on my own, being able to do whatever I want whenever I want for the most part. I mean, I have kids, so it's not like, I can get up and um go to the movies at 10 o'clock at night if I want to. I live in the city, so we do have movies at 10 o'clock at night, but things like that. But for the most part, it's like, hey, let's do this today or let's do that today. My kids just pretty much are willing to do whatever I tell them, like, hey, let's go or whatever. It's nice to not have to check in with somebody else's schedule and things like that. But I don't know. I'm just ranting. I don't know what I'm doing right here. I think I'm checking something. I don't know. And don't mind my fingers. They, I don't know what I did. They're pretty beat up though, right? I don't know what all those cuts are. I think honestly it's from reorganizing my floss storage. And I think I might include that at some point. I don't know when. I talked about it before a long time ago, maybe almost 2 years ago at this point. I've still kind of used the same system. I've just organized it in a neater way that looks nicer. And hopefully my tags don't fall apart as easily as they were before. I'd really like to switch to the acrylic tags like the Annie's Keepers, but son of a bitch, they're expensive. So it's like $28.50 for a set of 100 tags. And as it stands, I need about minimum 700. So just for the tags, that's, you're looking at about $30 with tax. So 30, 60, 90, 110, 20, 30, 50, 80, 110. That's over $200 for tags. Granted, I think that's probably the best situation. And I think I'm going to slowly buy them over time. And as my current tags wear down, I think I'm going to replace them with those. I just like how big they are. They're skinny. And I like that the holes are a little bit larger than your standard hole punch. And so, I think over time I will switch to those and then kind of just buy like 100 at a time, because I don't want to afford all of them at once. And I just switched them all over to something different. I should have just bought the set of them. Like, I should have just been buying them this whole time, so that at this point where I'm at now, where I'm fully switching over again my tags, I could have probably had all the tags. But also, if I would have chosen to maybe like not buy a couple of stash pieces, I probably could have bought all of the Annie's Keepers that I needed. Because what good are patterns just sitting there, right? Like, I went through a severe case of FOMO the first year of my stitching journey, and I've gotten so much better at it, that now when things come out, I no longer purchase them immediately. I sit on them for minimum 3 months before I decide to purchase it. Unless it's like something small. Like, I still have bought a couple of small charts in my last Flosstube, which is fine. But like Heaven and Earth and kits, I sit on them for quite some time before I purchase them, because I'm so frustrated with the amount of stash that I have, and I feel like I will never be able to stitch everything that I have, and I didn't buy everything to not stitch it. And so, like, it's kind of one of those things where you really have to take a step back and decide, like, do I really need this? Do I need to spend this $150 on charts that just came out when I have 30 whips right now and 500 other charts sitting in my stash? Like, do I really need it? You know, this is kind of what kept me at bay, minimum the last 8 months, was knowing that I already loved the whips that I had, because I've already started, excuse me, I don't know what's going on with my voice. I've already started not all of them, but I've already started a lot of the patterns that I absolutely love, and know that I want them hanging on my wall. And I haven't finished a huge portion of them. So it's like, I really don't need to be adding to it. And I understand that a lot of people never get to that point, you know, and that's fine. That's how they choose to build their stash, and they want to keep building and building and building. But I've gotten to a point where I don't want to build my stash anymore. Sure, like if there's something that I absolutely can't do without, I will absolutely get it. But so far I haven't really felt like that about anything. You know, save for the couple of patterns that I've bought in the past month. I think I've bought maybe 5 PDF files, 2 Star Wars ones, about 2 Zodiac ones, oh, and then 2 full coverage ones, and then the coffee one. Okay, so maybe that's like 7. But a lot of them are small, and so it kind of offsets it a little bit. And I think I've only got 2 full coverage ones. And, you know, it's like, I really want to get through a lot of the things that I have. And being that I love to stitch full coverage, I know that if I continue to build my stash, I will never get to a point where I can finish the full coverage pieces that even just the ones that I've started, not even getting to the ones that are in my stash, just sitting there waiting to be pulled and kitted and, you know, started. You know, so that's kind of where I'm at, you know, and these cute little ones, they're nice to do. They're cute, but I'm kind of at a point also where I'm not big on cutesy stuff. You know, I'm not big on stuff that's super colorful and tons of flowers and animals, you know, stuff like that. I don't really care for it. And so I know that if I have a bunch of small charts like this one, they're probably not going to be hanging on my wall. I don't know. Like I guess my tastes have changed a little bit, or I've just kind of come to the realization, I guess, that impulse buying is not good for a hobby, because I'm not using what I have. And I'm not going to lie, my stash is thousands of dollars deep at this point. My DMC collection, not DMC, my floss collection, even if we dial it back to how much was floss before they went up? Were they 53 cents before they went up to 60? I've already gone through 500 tags. I've got about 100 left. But I'm not even, like, those are all spoken for. I have a huge mountain of floss that I haven't even put on tags yet. So I've already gone through 500 tags. That's not including any of my fancy floss. So whatever the math is for 500 times, you know, when I purchased them, that's no freaking joke, just in floss. Not to mention what I have kitted. That is only my stash, not what's kitted. And actually, I have these 2 huge DMC hanging bobbin holder thingies. They're probably 2 feet by 3 feet. And I don't know how many bobbins it holds, but I have 2, and they're stuffed to the brim. Stuffed on bobbins that at some point I'd really like to clear the bobbins and put them hanging in my thing. However, they've been on the bobbins for so long. So I bought them, obviously not stash and load. I think I bought them on eBay. They were already bobbinated when I bought them. And then I've had them for at least 1.5 years or so, maybe a year. And they're still in the same bobbin. So I know that they're going to be wrinkled. not wrinkled, but they're going to have creases in them. So then when I debobinate them, is that the right word? I'm going to have to take them and possibly iron them so that they'll hang straight. Or maybe a steamer would be better. Like maybe I can do a whole bunch at once, hang them on a thingy, like hang them on a rod real quick, and then steam them straight. Will that work? Is that gonna mess up the color? I don't think so. I think they'll be fine. I don't know. Anyway, this Stitch With Me is all over the goddamn place. I don't even think anybody's gonna make it this far at this point, and I think I still have like 2 minutes left on this. My girls went to go have dinner with lunch with their aunt, which is it's a rarity. They hardly ever spend time with their other side of the family. So I'm gonna run to the store real quick, Office Depot, because I need to buy another file box for my floss. So I use these 18 by 11 by 14, maybe 10. I don't know, something. They're 18 inches long and about 10 inches deep. File boxes. They're weather tight file boxes that I've been hanging my floss in. As I mentioned, I hang them in an Annie's Keepers type of way, but not using the Annie's Keepers, just to give you like a rough idea of how I actually store them. And so I've changed the hanging method. They're still hanging, but they're hanging on a different mechanism now. And I need another file box. The holders that I'm using are a little bit thicker and I don't have enough room for them, which is I probably didn't have enough room before, but I just shoved them all in there. And now that I'm really taking a look at it, it'd just be better for a second box. So I see the end of the clip. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And if you want to see where I left off right here, head over to my Patreon and subscribe and you'll catch the rest of this Stitch With Me. Talk to you guys later.